back to you. So I'll start by sharing just a brief background. I find it difficult writing, but I find it easier saying it.
Yes.
So I have an interesting work career for starters, and I'm sure a larger audience, the larger number of our audience are university students or ex-university students, if I'm not wrong, Livingstone.
Yes, that's true. And the young professionals, of course.
And young professionals.
Yes.
And of course, you and I have been in this space, so we cannot brag. We all started here. And so let me start by welcoming everybody who is present today. So my name is Peter Mbatha, as was said. I don't want to give a lot of my biodata. I did my first degree at Egerton University, and that was between 1993 and 1997. I'm certain there are a few people who are not born by then in this audience, but that is okay. And then I pursued a master's degree at USIU later on, taking international business administration, master's in international business administration. Today, I work for a bank, but before I started working for the bank, I've been in the bank for the last 17 years. But before I was at the bank, I worked in, I would say, 4 or 5 other organizations. My first job was actually a high school teacher. My first degree was in Bachelor of Education. So I actually did teach for 2 years. In high school, I taught mathematics and economics. And after that, then I switched to IT, and that's where my interaction and engagement with technology started. That was around 1999, and up to date, I've not looked back. Technology has been very close to me. Many people refer to me as a banker, but I tell them I'm a technology guy who works in the bank. But all the same, I'm glad. So I think Livingstone, that gives a brief background of who I am. What am I passionate about? I'm actually more passionate about about investments. And so I give a lot of talks on investments and financial management. But I like the audience we have today. We have a good, youthful, young generation, guys who are ready to take it up and looking forward to joining the working space. And so today, Livingstone had invited me to talk on a few things around banking. Correct me, Livingstone, so that we don't lose focus. I think you to say a bit about the banking industry and talk about the opportunities that are presently there in the banking industry, and finally to look at the space of digital banking in the world we are in today. So for starters, let me say a little bit about the bank. As I said, I've worked in the bank for 17 years, and I would say it is a good industry. Is it the best industry? I don't know. Maybe I would say yes, because that's where I work and I earn my salary. But I would say it's a very interesting and dynamic industry. For those of you who are in campus or you finished campus, or those of you who are young professionals, I would start by saying the banking industry is a good industry working. I've been in it for 17 years. That should tell you something. I have a working experience of about 25 years. The fact that 17 out of 25 has been in the banking industry, I think speaks for itself. Otherwise, I would have switched to many other industries. So I'd just like to start by not assuming anything. For those of you who know how the banking industry works, please excuse me to take about 5 minutes to talk to those who don't know much about the banking industry. So what is the banking industry? I guess you'd say this is the composition of banks in Kenya and now globally, because we've gone global, so we no longer limit ourselves to Kenya. And it would be interesting, I wish this was more interactive, Livingstone. I would have wanted to hear from the audience whether they know how many banks are registered in Kenya. And but we can do that maybe during Q, and maybe that will be my question. So those of you who are listening to me, try and find out how many banks are actually registered in Kenya today. And but if I was just to talk about the banking industry, I would say this is the financial banking sector, which is regulated by Central Bank of Kenya. It's important I start with that. So we have approximately 40-something banks, but I'll be looking for the exact number from the audience later. We have 40-something banks registered in Kenya today, and all these banks are regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya. That means CBK oversees everything that the banks do, and of course, there are regular reports that the banks have to give on a daily basis or on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis, just to assure and give Central Bank the confidence that they're in compliance with the Banking Act and how banks should conduct themselves. But getting more specifically now to the commercial bank, what would you expect to find if you are to work in a bank? So the banking industry in general has several functions or units within it. Different banks will give these units different names, but the roles are the same, or what these units or functions do is similar. And I'll just want to run you through some of these key functions in the banking industry. So one of the key functions that you'll find in almost all the banks in Kenya is what we call the retail banking function. And the retail banking function is the one that is responsible for banking individuals. So today, if Gregory or James or Wilson, and I'm reading the names that I see on the screen right now, or Diana or Amos was to walk into any bank, then the interaction you are likely to have with the banking staff at the beginning will most likely be with the retail banking function staff. And the retail bankers are the ones who take care of individual customers. So the retail banking function basically takes care of individual customers and or even joint account customers. And in some cases, they will also find banks handling SMEs also under retail banking. And SMEs are the small and medium enterprise institutions. So this will be taken care of under the retail banking function. The second function that you need to know is what we call the corporate or the corporate department. Some banks call this the commercial department. And this is the area of banking that now takes care of corporate customers. Now, it is important, especially for those of you who are in college or have just finished college or the young professionals, to know that the bank does not handle the individuals and the companies or the corporates in a similar manner. Corporates are legal entities and they have unique requirements. And therefore, when they go to the bank, they approach the bank as corporate bodies. And therefore, there's a function or a department in the bank called corporate banking that takes care of that. Another function that is very critical, and you'll find it in all banks, is what we call the credit function or the credit department. I hope you are listening carefully. This is not a lecture, but at the end of the lesson, we want to ask questions. I don't know, Livingston, whether you have some goodies so you can reward the people who will remember, especially the functions in banking that I've talked about. So I've talked about the retail function or the retail department, which takes care of individuals and small enterprises. I've talked of the corporate function, which takes care of corporate bodies, companies, organizations, parastatals. The third function or department is what we call the credit department. And this is the one that basically, I would say, this is what most people refer to as banking. And ideally, this is the department that reviews loan requests from customers. When many customers come to the bank, they are coming to do two things, either to save or to borrow. And so if you borrow, the bank is ideally giving you a loan. And so the department that is responsible for reviewing those requests is normally referred to as the credit department. The fourth department, and this again is critical and you will find it in all banks, is what we call the operations department. Now, the operations department is the one that deals with the day-to-day functions of the bank. This tends to be a team of people who sit at the back. You never get to see them. When you go to a bank, the people that you tend to see and the staff of the bank that you tend to see are the cashiers, the tellers, and all those belong to the retail banking team. But the credit and the credit and the operations team will tend to sit at the back, and you mostly will not interact with them directly most of the time. And so these are the people who take care of the day-to-day operations of the bank. They are the ones who interact with branches and make sure branches have everything that is required to fulfill the customer requirements. And then another department I've talked of departments far is the technology department or function, and this is the department or the unit that takes care of all technology or IT related functions of the bank. So I've talked about generally 5 very key departments. I've talked about retail banking unit or department, corporate banking, which takes care of corporates and companies. I've talked about the credit department or division, which processes, reviews, and assigns. I've talked about the operations, who take care of the day-to-day, what I would call operations of the bank, which many times are not visible to customers on the outside, but they make sure that those back operations are carried out successfully, so that those of you who come to the bank and face the staff at the front, you find everything you need available. And I've talked about the technology division or department, which runs the systems that control or the bank runs on. So those are just 5. Many banks will have more than those 5, but I thought, Livingstone, let me talk about those 5 because they are the most critical. So under retail banking is also where you'll find the sales, maybe some of you, and the people who come out here and sell banking products they belong to. So that team that interacts with customers out there in terms of selling products also falls under the bank. For now, you'll allow me to stop there in terms of how a standard bank will be structured. As I said, and I need to make this clear, you'll find banks having more than those 5, but those 5 are the critical, and I would say almost like the backbone, because there are other divisions and functions that are critical. For example, I'm sure every bank has a human resource department, which ideally takes care of hiring, promotions, placements of people in the bank, which is also another great department. You would find departments or divisions like finance, which also take care
We seem to have lost him a little bit. I know he's coming back. Yeah, for those who have joined us, we are at the Corporate Career Academy, looking at careers in banking and finance. Our guest...
just another unique feature that you'll find with most of the banks today. Having looked at that, because as I said, there were 3 areas we were supposed to address tonight. The first one was the banking industry and how it is broken down, how it is composed, which I've taken you through. The second one is to talk about the opportunities that are there today in the banking sector. And our last discussion will be on the digital banking environment. So I think we can go to the next phase, which is the opportunities in the banking industry. Now, I would want to pick this by just taking us back to the departments or the divisions that I told you are there in banking. So I would say up to date, there are still great opportunities within those units. So the opportunities in retail banking, if you are somebody who has done sales, who has done BCom, and you want to basically deal with the actual core banking, which is basically attending to customers at the branch and so on, that would be a good place where opportunities exist. The other department, which I did not mention, that is critical, and again, you'll find most banks with this department, is what we call the marketing department. Some banks will even have the public relations department sitting completely separate from marketing. But for our discussion this evening, let's just put marketing and PR together. So again, if you've taken a BCom course, or because most of the members in the audience today, if I'm not wrong, Jackson, are business students. But I think I want to address everybody, whether you're a business student or not. So again, there are opportunities. If you've done marketing as an option in BCom or public relations, again, there are opportunities in that space in any of the banks. The other area is technology. You have not even done a business course, but you've done IT. So again, I would say there are numerous opportunities for technology students, even in the banking sector. Whether you are on the development side in terms of coding, whether you are an expert in the area of networking, whether your area is in application support. Those of you who've done technology understand what I'm saying. So that's another area where there are opportunities. Of course, there are areas where you can work if you've done, again, probably a business course and you've majored in finance. As I said, most banks have a department that takes care of finance. So that would be a good space for you to start. And the reason I'm just taking you through this is for you to realize that there is no specifically per se a banking degree, but banking has a lot of room and space for students who've studied business and even those who've studied courses like technology. Because I think there's just this assumption that if you're not a business student, you can't work in the bank. I think I've given myself as an example. I did not do BCom, I actually did technology. But today I'm speaking about banking. So there's there are a lot of opportunities in the banking sector. But what I would say in terms of trend, and this takes me to the next topic, because we want to give adequate for question and answers so that we can make this particular session more interactive, is then where do we see the bigger opportunities? And this drives me the third point, which Livingstone requested me to talk about, and this is the digital banking environment.
Peter, we've lost you. Sorry, you are mute. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I think you had blocked all of us, so I also couldn't unmute myself. So
okay,
sorry about that.
Okay.
So I will repeat the last statement. So I was saying I'm now going to take the next 7 or so minutes to discuss about the third area of our discussion today evening. Our audience, I'm being careful and deliberate not to say too much so that I don't lose you or I don't bore you. I'm actually looking forward more to the Q&A session, question and answer session, so that we can interact more, and I'll probably address the issues that are more pertinent to you. So the third area or topic that Livingstone had requested me to address is what we call the digital banking environment. Now, if you did not remember anything I said from the moment I started, concentrate now, because this is the most important part. I would confidently say digital banking is the future of banking. And what is digital banking? Digital banking, if I was to describe it in a very layman language so that I don't confuse anybody with jargon, is basically moving the banking services from the banking hall to other channels. And what I mean by that is that in the past, if anybody talked about banking, they were referring to physically going into a building that has people, cashiers, tellers, and you go and either get cash or deposit cash and walk out with a receipt as evidence that you've done a banking transaction. However, digital banking transformed that, took away the brick and mortar, and put all those services in alternative channels. So the word alternative channels is used a lot in banking today, and this refers to all the other options that can still avail the same banking services to you without having to walk or go to a bank physically. And what are some of these channels? The leading one is mobile banking. Today, I'm sure all of you use the mobile phone to do banking transactions. It may not be necessarily with a bank, but when, let me say, to do financial transactions, I think that is more accurate. So when you take your phone and you push money from your M-Pesa wallet to another friend's wallet, you've actually done a financial transaction. Now, in the past, you would have had to go to the bank, withdraw the cash, give the cash to your friend. The other channel through which today we are seeing a lot of transactions being carried out or done is internet banking. So either using your laptop or using your tablet or using still your mobile phone, you can actually use the internet banking service to carry out financial transactions. And I don't want to limit financial transactions because financial transactions can refer to a lot of things. It could refer to transfer of cash from one person to another, from one person to a corporate. For example, when you're making your bill payments to KPLC or Nairobi Water, it could mean making bill payments like paying school fees or just making payments to different institutions. So I don't want to limit what financial transactions are. I'm sure you've done a lot of financial transactions using alternative channels. Of course, the other alternative channels are the ATMs. In the past, ATMs were simply machines where you could only go and withdraw cash. I don't know whether you guys are aware that today you can actually walk with cash to an ATM and deposit it without going to a bank, to a teller. So, and there are many other channels that are coming up, but in my opinion, as your speaker today, I would say the king of the future is the mobile phone. A lot of banking services are now being availed on the mobile phone. And so I would say if you are interested in joining the banking industry, this is one space I would request you to do a bit of research. If you have friends in the banking sector, engage them and find out what does that space entail. What do they do as a bank as far as digital banking is concerned? And many banks today have renamed this department and they are calling it the Digital Financial Services, or DFS. So when you hear about digital banking, mobile banking, digital financial services, this is basically banking services being provided electronically or digitally. And if you were to ask me, I would say that's the future of banking today, and I'm sure you are aware of this. Some of you probably have seen this through your parents. Your parents no longer have to go to the bank physically to draw cash and then give you to go pay school fees. Today, I'm sure even when you're in campus, your parents have the ability to use their mobile phones to pull cash from their bank accounts and push this to your mobile phones. And within seconds, you have money available to you. Today, when you go to any restaurant or any hotel or any entertainment spot or even to hospital, anywhere you go where you need to make a payment, you'll agree with me, the almost default mode of payment today is by use of the mobile phone. And so digital banking is very critical. And as I was saying, I want to reiterate, if you are interested in working in the banking sector, this is one area you must give focus. I highly doubt you'll attend any interview in the bank today and they don't ask you a question during the interview that touches on digital banking. So that is what I would like to say in a nutshell. And I would say this is exciting space to be in, that is the digital banking environment. And through digital banking environment, banking has been able to be spread out across. You'll agree with me, in the past, the people in shags, the people in the rural areas, the people in the most remote areas could not access banking services. But because of digital banking, today even our grandparents who are in shags are able to access financial services, and thanks to digital banking. Today you can send your grandma or your grandma funds using your phone. That was unimaginable years ago. It may look like it's such a normal thing, but I'd like to just encourage you guys that we are living in very good times where the world is almost becoming borderless. Today, even sending funds or receiving funds from other countries in Kenya or out of Kenya to other countries has become so simple. Again, thanks to the digital banking environment. And so Livingstone, with I'd like at that point is exactly 8:30 as we agreed, and I will be happier to actually hear from the audience that is with us today. I see James Nganga, I see Gregory, Lawrence, Suran, and many more who are connected today, and I'm sure they have questions. And I think that would be the best way to make this particular discussion interactive and fruitful. So with your permission, allow me to pause there. As a summary, I've talked about the banking industry and how it is broken down, and I took you through the almost 7 critical departments, namely retail, corporate, credit, HR, technology, marketing, and finance, and finally operations. Then I've also taken time to talk about the opportunities that lie in each of these departments and areas of focus. And finally, I think I've given the digital banking environment some good introduction and just a breakdown. And so I think I would want to stop there, Livingstone, and hand it over to you. I would be happy to spend the next 30 minutes answering questions.
Thank you very much. I'll ask the audience, that's very good for one, a very good elaborate understanding of the bank and the banking industry. I know now we have a good appreciation of what the bank does and who is in the bank. So maybe as I give you this chance to maybe answer questions, I could wish to ask, could you just mention something about finance? Because you also, most of the students who do finance and banking, I know you have clearly said you don't need a finance degree to work in a bank, but then could you mention something about finance and the training you do in finance? That one will also be good, maybe in 5 minutes as we answer the questions. You can raise your hands, you can write. All right, so yeah.
Thank you very much, Livingstone. And if there's I need to talk about, I forgot again, just feel free to jump in and I'll be happy to elaborate. So as I mentioned, one of the key departments in the banking industry is actually finance. And many people, and I'm addressing the audience with us today, and I'm being careful because I know in the audience we also have students who may not have done business. And so it may not be clear what is the difference between finance and banking. So as I said, banking has many functions in it, and finance is one of the many functions under bank. But in a nutshell, so that it's clear, audience, the finance division or department of the bank is one that deals with the payments, day-to-day payments that have to be done in the bank. Now remember, as much as the bank receives cash from customers in terms of deposits and allows customers to withdraw or gives them loans, the bank is also a corporate organization like any other organization. And so it has daily requirements. For example, the different units in the bank need to purchase stationery. Different departments in the bank have to pay salaries. The different departments engage vendors, like the technology team will engage vendors to build solutions and to put or probably apply fixes to technology problems. Now, all these service providers who give different forms of services to the bank have to be paid. And so the finance department or function of the bank is the one that has the responsibility of managing these payments. So I think it's very important for the audience to understand that the bank is also a corporate entity and it consumes services. And because it consumes services and even products and goods, it has to make payments. And those payments are actually managed, handled by the finance division of the bank. And so if you're a business student and you've done, again, I would say great opportunity for you in the banking industry. But you'll be interested to know, Livingstone, that we have actually had many people who join the bank and maybe they come through finance, but after a few years, they actually leave finance and join marketing because their taste and preference has changed. Probably they've realized with time they enjoy doing marketing more than finance. And I think that is one thing I needed to mention, that when you join the bank, it does not matter. Even if you are to join the bank as a sales representative, you can still switch units or functions. You can actually leave sales and go to human resources, maybe because in the process of doing sales and as you are doing your master's, you took a master's degree in HR. Maybe your first degree was in business. So again, well, that's one other beauty of working in the banking industry. It gives you an opportunity to switch from one unit to another, which actually then gives you an opportunity to expand your base in terms of experience. So I think that's very critical, even as I'm answering the finance question, to know that if you are to join the bank and you join finance, it does not mean you will spend your entire career in finance. You could actually switch from finance to technology, because in the course of your career, you took IT. So I have answered that question well, Livingstone, and I'll hand it back to you.
Well, thank you very much. I'll wish to give this chance to Perpetual. Perpetual, I'm unmuting you. You can just ask your question. As you ask your question, there's a question here from one of the viewers has asked, and I want to read the question from Prudence. She asked, if I take finance and banking, is it a must that I do CFA? For those who don't know, it is a certified financial analyst, so that to get a job in a bank. You can answer that. Perpetual, I'm unmuting you to ask your question. I've seen your hand up, Perpetual. Could you ask your question? Just unmute yourself. I've allowed you to unmute yourself. Yes, yes, you can now ask. Yes, Perpetual.
I was asking the same question that Prudence asked.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, I was asking, is it a must somebody can do CFA?
Mm-hmm. Certified financial analyst. Yeah, sure.
Is it a must I do that?
I think that is clear, Perpetual, and Prudence.
Then, maybe
yes,
the next question.
Clarify more. It looks like clarify more. Go ahead, Perpetual.
If I take finance and banking, what am I expecting to be like? What are the career? Azim.
Yes, Perpetual, just ask the way it is.
Nilikuwa nauliza aje. Sorry.
We are listening to you. Don't worry. Yes. Yes, sir, speak. We are hearing you.
Okay, kama mtu akifanya accounting ana accountant. Sasa mimi nikifanya finance and banking na kuwa nini?
Good. Thank you very much. We'll answer that.
That's a good question. We'll answer that.
I'll also ask Dominic to unmute himself, then ask his question, then we answer them at once. Maybe some could be related. You can unmute yourself. Yes, you can unmute yourself. I've allowed you to unmute. Dominic, not yet. Yes, you're okay now. You can ask.
Yeah, go ahead, Dominic.
You can now ask, Dominic.
We can hear you now.
Yes, yes.
Okay. What are the basic skills that a student taking BCom or BBAM requires before entering the banking industry?
The basic skills.
As the bank also keeps on changing, the basic skills that a student taking BCom or BBAM is required before getting into the market.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question, Dominic.
Yeah.
I've heard that it's clear. Livingstone, maybe you can take one last one, the third one.
The third
I think
one
there's
is
this gentleman called Maina Mburu had his hand raised.
Yeah, Maina, you can ask your question.
Thank you so much, Corporate Career Academy, Mr. Livingstone Makori, for according me this chance. First and foremost, I want to thank Mr. Peter Mbatha, assistant banker, for your session. It was quite resourceful and contentful. we really appreciate and look forward for such more in the future. So basically, my question is on something to do with IT. Yeah.
Go ahead.
We cannot oppose the idea that the world is going digital, and in the banking business, digital must come in and technology has come in. Yeah. So, for instance, in our course, Bachelor of Commerce, we only partake two units for the whole course concerning IT, and that is introduction to computer and programming method, of which method, in my view, it does not relate in any way to BCom, if I may say. So the question is, what extra can I do after maybe my 4-year course that will help me to be update with those people who have pursued maybe business management in IT? Or are there any extra professional courses in IT? Yeah? Also, I have a question on, you could kindly touch on microfinance business.
Okay.
And we cannot oppose also the idea that the circles are growing. So as far as much as the circles are growing, how is that affecting the banking business? And how best can one be that it will live in the heart of the banking business? Thank you so much.
All right, Livingstone, if it's okay, I would like to address
give
those
Albert,
3 questions, then we can.
I have Albert.
Okay, that's fine.
Albert,
go ahead.
Albert, let me unmute you first.
Albert.
Albert, you can unmute yourself, then ask your question.
Okay, thank you. My question goes to our speaker today. I'm asking the connection between finance and banking and the CP professional certificate you need in money and banking.
Yeah, thank you,
Albert, please repeat that question.
Yes?
Please repeat your question. You asked what is the connection between?
Okay, connection between money and banking and the CPA, or if I can rephrase it, I mean, is there a professional certificate apart from BCom certificate or finance certificate that is BCom, then you do finance? Is there another professional certificate you need to be competent?
Okay, I've gotten your question.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Livingstone, can we address those ones and then
now, there's one more question from I can see a lecturer from MKU University. Madam Ross is asking, you could also touch on those who are doing economics, finance, and statistics. What the need for statisticians in the bank? Could you mention something about it for those who are doing statistics? And maybe she means data science in this case. How are they useful in the banking world of today? Thank you, Malim, for tuning in from MKU.
Thank you for that question, Mwalimu.
Yeah, maybe now you can answer the questions. Yeah, you can now answer them.
Okay, so thank you very much. I can't remember the name of the first lady who asked the question. I remember Perpetual came in, Prudence. But there is one that you read, yeah, Prudence. So let me start with that question that was asked by Prudence. And I think, if I'm not wrong, Perpetual reiterated or re-emphasized the same question, that the question was, as a student, if I'm already taking banking and finance, must I do or take CFA, the Certified Financial Analyst, to enable me join the banking sector? And the answer is no. I think I want to break the perception that the banking industry is super unique and you need a lot of things for you to work in the bank. In fact, as I've told you, you would be happy to know there are actually many bankers who actually did even Bachelor of Arts or even BSc general, and they are bankers today. simply because they maybe took mathematics and or economics. And I want to tie this to the last question. There are people who do BA economics and statistics, or some of the courses that have been mentioned. And so let me just break that perception that you must have this chain of qualifications for you to make it to the bank. That is not true. As I said at the beginning, the banking sector has very many functions within it. Today, a student may just have done a degree in business marketing, but that will actually open doors for you to join the bank if there was an opportunity in the marketing department in the bank. Similarly, you may actually find somebody has done a degree in information technology or computer science, and they get themselves in the bank. Why? Because there was an opportunity in the banking sector, but in the technology department. And so I don't want anybody to feel that you must do your banking degree, or rather your BCom degree, pick banking, pick finance, and on top of that, do CFA so that you make it to the bank. However, I think it is only fair for me to say this. In the same manner, today, you may find somebody has done a degree in BCom and they took accounting option. And on top of that, they go ahead and do CPA Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3, or they do ACCA. My question is this: when such a student goes for an interview in the bank, let's say you only took BCom, and there's another student who took BCom and CFA on top of that, what do you think is likely to happen in the interview room? The person who has more courses along with them already has an advantage. I'm not saying they are guaranteed the job. That is not the reality. But all I'm saying is that the advantage of taking additional certifications, first and foremost, it says you are interested in that area. And that is why, unlike your colleagues or your peers who you are in class with when you are doing that BCom course or business course, you took the initiative to take an additional course. And so it is an advantage. And I'll tell you, because I've sat in many interview panels, people who have additional certifications always get additional scores when they sit in interviews. And so to close on that question, I would say it is not a must for you to do CFA to work in the bank, but it will be an added advantage if you have CFA. And for your information, CFA was not actually even introduced for the banking sector. CFA is actually used more by stockbrokers in the stock brokerage industry. Yes, you can use it in the banking sector, but you'll be surprised to actually know CFA, as much as it reads Certified Financial Analyst, that particular discipline was not necessarily introduced or designed for banking. Yes, it is useful and valuable in the banking industry, but it is useful in many other sectors. The guys who do stockbroking, the guys who do financial analysis, the guys who do financial management and planning, all of those require CFA. So let's not get the impression that you must do CFA to work in the banking industry. I don't know whether Perpetual and Prudence have answered your question, but I believe I've given it the best shot. Livingstone, do you want to comment before I go to the next question, or do I just continue?
I want to comment and say, Peter, who is speaking to us, was a teacher before. So he never had any banking qualification to become a banker.
Exactly,
So
and
that's
thank you for
testimony.
Thank you for reminding me that, Livingstone, and thank you. Yes, I would actually want to use myself as an example. My first degree was in Bachelor of Education, and I did economics and mathematics. And I think this ties with what the lecturer in MKU was asking. What about students who've done econ, statistics, mathematics? There's still an opening for you. The only thing I would say is that when you're applying for a job in the bank or any other industry, the most important thing is first and foremost for you to understand what does that role require. And of course, as a candidate, you must first and foremost believe that you're qualified. You cannot apply for a job and you don't have confidence you can do that job. I know there is the fear that you may not have working experience, but what I'd like to encourage you today, as I answer the other questions which were asked, is the first secret and skill, because most of you have asked, what skill do I need to work in the banking industry? I would say the first skill is actually self-confidence. You must be confident enough in yourself that you can do that job so that you can go ahead and apply for the role and actually make it to the interview and present yourself confidently. That by itself is almost 80% of what is needed. The rest is just a formality, 20% to confirm that actually what you've put in your CV, what you are saying about yourself is truly who you are. So Livingstone, so that we don't take a lot of time around that, allow me to combine the other questions. I think Dominic asked, if I've done BCom, what other skills do I need to join the banking industry? You don't need any more skills. As I said, the fact that you have that BCom degree is good enough for you to apply for any role in the bank. The only reason we always say, many times you'll hear, if you've taken BCom marketing, look for a job in marketing. Many times you'll be told, if you've done BCom finance, look for a job in finance or in the banking industry. I think I want to break that jinx and say, as long as it is the financial industry, it doesn't matter whether it's a bank or insurance or SACCO or microfinance, as some of you have mentioned, any space in the financial industry, as long as you're a business student, you're already qualified to apply for any role. And I think that's the confidence I want to give you today, this evening. I think Maina Mburu asked, how do you prepare for the digital space when you're a business student? Maina and the rest of the audience, don't be scared. You cannot learn everything at one go. Many of my colleagues in the bank today who are doing digital banking, you'll be shocked. Some of them did not even do IT. But as they were working in the bank, they took time to study technology while doing something else. Maybe somebody was in marketing, maybe somebody was in finance, and they took a course in IT, or they even just showed interest. And out of the interest and acquiring skills and volunteering to work together with the technology teams, they got an opportunity to slowly switch from one unit actually to the technology unit. And digital banking is not only in IT. We, as I mentioned, we have a department or units known as digital financial services. And in this unit, you will find business students who did not do IT, but they are actually working in those units or departments. So again, no fear. The rest of the team tonight, you don't have to have done IT to be in digital banking. I think the other question that was asked was, what is the connection between banking and CFA and CPA? As I said, all these additional professional certifications are just to enable you specialize. And the best example I can give is somebody who has done BCom accounting. And the question I'd want to ask tonight is that person fully qualified to be an accountant? The answer is yes. But why do they still go ahead and do CPA? You do CPA because it is a specialized accounting course. So it digs slightly deeper, but you'll agree with me, anybody who has done BCom accounting will have an easier journey as they do the CPA. But remember, as I said, the professional certification is to boost what you already have acquired as you are taking your first degree. So this additional certification helps mark you out. It helps separate you from somebody who has just done that degree and nothing else. But other than that, of course, it opens doors for you and enables you to understand some of the concepts that you could not go into deeper when you are doing your degree. I'm sure today in the audience, we have students who've taken CFA. And if they were given a chance, they would be able to say how much more they've been able to understand around the financial space or world besides what they learned in campus. I don't know whether there's a question that I've left out, Livingstone.
Actually, you have answered all of them.
Okay, so maybe we can give room for another maybe 2 or 3 questions before we run out of time.
Okay, I've not checked any.
I see Dominic has raised his hand again.
Dominic has asked, can you
question.
give somebody a chance to ask, even among your team
Can
members? Yes. You can unmute and give somebody else a chance to ask.
We have someone before.
Dominic, you can unmute yourself.
We have 37 people in the audience.
Okay. Yes, Dominic, yes, mute again. Yeah, so Mbatha, just as, let me give Brian Kibet. Brian, yeah, unmute yourself and then you ask your question.
Hello?
Yes, Brian.
Go ahead, Brian.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My question is, a person who has become accounting, what will be his role in the banking industry in those departments you have said?
Okay. Thank you very much.
We can take the next question from Daniel Kio.
Daniel, where are you? Daniel, can I see Daniel? Yes, Daniel, unmute yourself and ask a question. Ask your, okay. Yes, Daniel. Unmute first. Yes, you can now speak.
Okay. My question is that I failed to do finance and banking because I've done CPA, knowing that I have 2 certificates. Am I right or am I wrong?
Thank you very much.
Please repeat that question. Livingston, kindly request Daniel to repeat the question. Daniel, please repeat your question.
Okay.
Yes, Daniel, you can repeat again. Just unmute again. You have mute again. Okay. Yes, you can ask.
Okay, my question is that I opted to do another course other than banking and finance since I've done CPA, knowing that I have 2 certificates. Am I right or am I wrong?
Wow, thank you.
Okay, I've gotten your question, Daniel.
Yes. So maybe you can answer those and then I could get any question. Jacqueline Njeri is asking, despite not having done a course in business or HR or finance, maybe done a course in BEd, can you secure opportunity to work in the banking industry? Yes, the answer is yes, Jacqueline. Peter Mbatha did education. I've also worked in the bank I've not mentioned, and I never did banking.
All right, so the 2 questions that were asked, the first one was, what role is there for somebody who has done BCom accounting in the bank? Now, if you recall, I mentioned there is a department known as the operations department in the bank, and all banks have an operations unit. And in the operations unit, they actually do a lot of accounting because this is the department that does a lot of reconciliation, what the bank has received versus what the bank has given out. Those of you who are accountants by professional or students of accounting, you understand what I mean. So there is actually a specific department within the bank that requires accounting. The other department within banking that would also appreciate the accounting skills is the finance division. So I would be happy to let you know, those of you who are out there doing BCom accounting, that there are actually opportunities for you in the bank. If I'm not wrong, I think the other question was the gentleman who said he may not have done banking and finance, but he has other certifications. What I would say is this: as long as you have a degree and you have a passion and you are interested in working in the banking industry, the opportunity is there. All you need to do is apply, because today most of the careers or opportunities are in the banking websites. Please make a habit of visiting the different websites for the different banks. There is always a tab or a button at the top for careers, and just check out what roles are being advertised. Livingston, with your permission, I would say this. In my experience in the banking sector for the last 17 years, I've seen so many people, and I've come across, I have nephews, I have nieces, I have cousins who have done businesses. And many times they reach out to me and they tell me, Peter, I would want to work in the bank. Which role would you advise me to apply for? And many times I tell them, you know what? The easiest entry to the bank is actually the sales job. Most banks will almost all the time be having vacancies for sales. And you'll be surprised, Livingston, because many of my nephews, children to my friends, keep saying, I cannot do sales. After doing 4 degrees of BCom, you're telling me to go and sell. You want me to become a hawker? But from experience, let me tell you this, guys. One leg inside the tent is better than being outside the tent. And I'll repeat this. If you have an opportunity to do sales, even if you hate sales or you never dreamt you would do sales, please take it up. And in fact, the sales jobs, I think the qualifications sometimes are not as strict as the specialized area, namely finance, technology, marketing, HR. And I've seen so many people who joined the banking industry, guys who've done anthropology. I'm talking about reality here, guys, and I'm being practical. You find somebody did anthropology, some people have done BA, sociology, they come and they take up the challenge and they do sales. And what does sales entail? You come, you are trained on how to sell, and you're told, go out there and sell loans, sell the cards, the credit cards that the banks give out to customers, go and sell the mortgage products because banks give people mortgages to buy houses. And within no time, within given months, few months, 6 months or 1 year, opportunities arise and these guys now apply for roles in courses that they actually pursued. So you find somebody actually did BCom, but they are doing sales. And then an opportunity arises in the finance department or in the operations department. And they apply and they get the job. So if there's one thing I would like to encourage all of you tonight, when you see an opportunity in the bank, and especially in the area of sales, please do not let it go. That may just be the key to your entry to the bank. You will be shocked to know, today I'm in the technology department in the bank, and we have so many young people we have hired who joined the bank through sales. And after a few months, technology advertises for a few roles, and these guys stand a better chance. Why? Because they've already been in the bank for some time. And so they already understand the culture, they understand how things are done in the bank. And so when they apply, they already have an advantage as compared to somebody who is fresh from college. And so I'm encouraging you, because I know quite a number of you are still in campus, others have just finished looking forward to getting jobs, and others probably are just young professionals. So I thought I need to mention that, Livingston, that many people look down on the role of sales, yet that has been the opening key to many people who are in the banking sector. So back to you, Livingston.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbatha, for joining us for this discussion. It has been a wonderful discussion. I know where all people are, those who have listened to us, those who will continue watching us, will be able to learn the immense opportunities we have in the bank. So what I've been telling young professionals and even students, when you hear somebody speaking, and I use this example of a madman, when you hear a madman speaking, he may be telling you there is fire next building. Just listen. So we are bringing in professionals from all walks of life to come and talk to you about their careers in their field, get to understand and appreciate those careers, get to know where you start from. And by so doing, we are giving what is called career corporate social responsibility. We're just enlightening the future generation. You know, you are the future managers of this country. You need to understand where you need to go to. That's the spirit around the Corporate Career Academy, taking you through their career, getting you to understand the skills in the industry, and by so doing, you are able to understand your career well, plan well, and grow well. So tomorrow we'll have another speaker speaking another issue about accounting. For those who are in accounting, our speaker is from the area of